Okay, Bible and Daily Lifers, here we are, going through the New Testament, going through the book of Hebrews, making some good progress here. We're in Hebrews chapter 8. So we've been saying that the book of Hebrews is that Jesus is better than everything Hebrew. Like what? Well, started out in verse 1. Actually, it did start out in verse 1. Chapter 1, verse 1, where it says that in the past, in many different ways, God spoke to us through the prophets. Jesus is better than the prophets. And then it goes on and it says, to which of the angels did he ever say? Well, Jesus is better than the angels. Then it goes on and it talks about the tabernacle in the wilderness. Jesus is better than the tabernacle. It talks about the temple. Jesus is better than the temple. It talks about the priest. Jesus is better than the priest. It talks about the high priest. Jesus is better than the high priest. It talks about the sacrifice. Jesus is better than all of the sacrifices. He's the sacrifice. And now, chapter 8, we get to the covenant. Well, covenant means, maybe in our vernacular, might mean, how can we, contract, but it's not quite a contract. We do sometimes at our church, we do MOUs, memorandums of understanding. This is what we agreed upon. But the covenant, what God had said in the Old Testament, this is how you're righteous, by keeping these commands. Well, nobody could do it. So we need a new covenant. Well, let's read about the new covenant. And the old covenant was blood. The new covenant's going to be blood. The old covenant was a promise. The new covenant is a promise. So, chapter 8, verse 1. Now, the main point of what we're saying is this. Going back to Melchizedek, and here's the main point. We do not have such a high priest who sat down at the right hand of the throne in majesty of heaven, and who serves in the sanctuary, the true tabernacle, better than the earthly one, set up by the Lord, not by a mere human being. Every high priest is appointed to offer gifts and sacrifices, which is what the Old Testament priests did. So doesn't Jesus. And so it was necessary for this one to have something to offer. Okay? If he were on earth, he would not be a priest, for there are already priests who offer gifts prescribed by the law. Earthly priests. There are no more after the year 70 when the temple came down. No earthly priests either. They serve at a sanctuary that's a copy and shadow of that which is in heaven. Boy, I wish we had the time to go through all of that. That's amazing. This is why Moses was warned when he was about to build a tabernacle, see to it that you make everything according to the pattern you was shown on the mountain. But in fact, the ministry of Jesus is superior to theirs, as the covenant, which he is the mediator, is superior to the old one, the old covenant and the new covenant. And since the new covenant is established on better promises, well, what kinds of promises? What kinds of better promises? For if there had been nothing wrong with the first covenant, the old keeping the 10 Commandments, the priest with all of the sacrifices in the temples and animals being sacrificed all the time, if there was nothing wrong with that, there would be no sought after for another one. But God found fault with it, the people. And he said, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant. So there's a new covenant. It's a better covenant with the people of Israel and the people of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors, Old Testament, when I took them by hand to lead them out of Egypt, the Passover, because they did not remain faithful to my covenant, and I turned away from them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant I will establish with the people of Israel. After that time, declares the Lord, here's the new covenant. I will put the laws in their minds and write them on their hearts, not on stone, on their hearts. I'll be their God and they'll be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor and say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least to the greatest. And I'll forgive their wickedness, and I'll remember their sins no more. By calling the covenant new, he has made the first one obsolete, and what's obsolete and outdated will soon disappear. The old covenant, the new one is better. Jesus is better than the prophets, better than the angels, better than the priests, better than the temple, better than the tabernacle, better than the sacrifices. He's a forever priest. He's better than the high priest, better covenant, better everything. Jesus, superior, better. Wow. We love Jesus. He is everything to us and everything we need. Hey, bless you guys. Let's continue in the book of Hebrews and the New Testament. Bless you.